first thing is, are you doing anything specifically for athleticism? Because this is something that people always talk about. Like, oh, you do a sport. Are you doing anything specific for athleticism? Are you doing any like box jumps? Are you doing any like push presses or anything like that? Anything specific? And then the second half of that is, are you doing anything specific for like flexibility? You know? And I suppose, like, seeing as we did talk about it previously in the last, whatever, 2 or 3 podcasts, are you doing anything specifically for injury prevention other than just choosing good exercises that are going to strengthen the potential weak areas of the body?
Yeah, so like athleticism is something that's kind of difficult to quantify, but when people say it, I know what they mean. You know, they mean the things that don't fit into standard conventional strength training. So it might be doing more high velocity strength work, power or explosiveness or plyometric work. And I do a little bit of that, but relatively sparingly. The way I look at that is, if I've taken care of all the other things I said I would do in the ideal training week, I might add in a bit of that. You know, some of the things I would do sometimes would be like an explosive step up or something like that. Typically it's like unilateral explosive leg work, because that is a bit more relevant for jiu-jitsu, especially if you're doing like wrestling and stuff. Sometimes, you know, shooting and you have to be more explosive. So some of that stuff I'll put in every now and then, but it's not a high priority. For some sports, it can be a bit more of a priority. If you need to jump or sprint, really important that you're doing some higher velocity strength work and potentially reactive, like landing drills and stuff like that. But jiu-jitsu is primarily, once you're done with the wrestling, it's a ground activity. So you don't need to put too much emphasis on it.
Especially if you're in the gi, it's quite slow.
Yeah, absolutely. Like no gi, it is a faster pace. I do enjoy no gi. So I think if you, but that again puts you somewhere on that spectrum of the kind of anaerobic / power strength activity. And when you're doing heavy strength work, you're training those systems that are going to allow you to be explosive already. It's just kind of adding the icing on the cake then by doing more high velocity strength work. So it can be useful for sure. I view it as the icing on the cake for me, especially because it's not really what I enjoy. I enjoy my kind of standard strength / bodybuilding type training.
I just get stronger, and
yeah,
that makes me faster.
Exactly. I mean, and that's kind of how it works. So for jiu-jitsu, I don't think it's a massive priority. I know you'll see a lot of like martial arts training in general that people put a heavy emphasis on that. But I think if you take care of your basic strength work and all the conditioning stuff that we mentioned first, I think you'll get more out of that then in the end. Because you have to think about it, like when you're trying to develop like power, as they say, what you're trying to do is basically like take the strength that you've got and make it faster. You know, so now take the muscle and the strength that you've built and now be able to express that at higher velocities. But if you think about that, if you've got no strength in the first place, then you've got nothing to express. So deal with the strength first and then add on the high velocity stuff. That's
I always think of it just like the shot put, right?
Yeah.
Or like even just throwing something is easier. Like if I get you to throw a bowling ball, right? If you're barely able to hold that bowling ball, I don't care how fast you are, how fucking explosive you are, it's just going to fucking fall. It's just going to be like, boom, straight down, right? Whereas if that bowling ball feels like a fucking, I don't know, a golf ball in your hand because you're so strong, you're going to be able to throw that further, faster, stronger, fucking everything, you know? So get stronger, you get faster, byproduct. However, you do still have to train it. You know, you can't just be like, oh, I got stronger and I hope to get faster. Like you still have to actually try to move fast, right? Absolutely. But you can do that in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, and I mean, I do have more of my field sports clients work on this kind of stuff, like where I'll do, like typically it'll be something like I'm not getting people really heavily into Olympic lifting. I know people often think that, oh, if I want to be athletic, I have to do the snatch and clean and jerk, but they're really complex exercises. So why not just do?
Also, they're actually not even that good exercises for triple extension, which is what they're trying to train.
Yeah, I much prefer getting people to do like taking those movements and breaking down their components so we can exploit the components of fitness we're trying to. So for example, a box squat at maybe 40 to 60% of your 1 rep max and performing that super explosively on the concentric, like I really like that. You know, things like jumping squats as well at lower percentages of 1 rep max can work quite well. Things like explosive push presses, they're all great options without having to go and spend months and years developing excellent Olympic lifting techniques. So I like that sort of stuff. Now, from a flexibility perspective, I'm not as flexible as yourself, but I do have an above average level of flexibility, particularly for jiu-jitsu in terms of hip rotation, knee rotation, especially. Like I've got an abnormal amount of knee rotation, and my shoulders are quite flexible as well. So I tend to find it relatively easy to do things like inversions and, you know, rotating my hip into different positions, which works really well for jiu-jitsu. So I haven't had to train it too much. It is something that I do think there's a bit of scope there, that if I improved it, it could potentially improve some elements of my game. But the thing with flexibility is that in jiu-jitsu, at least, it sort of depends on the type of game that you're trying to play. So if you want to, you know, do lots of rubber guard and kind of 10th planet style jiu-jitsu,
which I do,
yeah, then you need and that's good for you because you've got like long legs and flexible legs, which is really annoying to deal with if someone's able to do that type of jiu-jitsu. Whereas,
choking people out with your shin bone, that's,
oh yeah, well, that is
beautiful.
epic. Whereas if you're like maybe from the Dagestani school, where you're like more smash sambo type Khabib style jiu-jitsu, then you don't need to use as much flexibility
Or just do both.
Or just do both, yeah. But yeah, it depends what you're looking for. And for me, I do use my flexibility for sure. I think it's something that I could do with, I could benefit from improving on it further. But again, it's one of those things that when I look at the relative return on investment, it's not very high up there for me at the moment. If I change my game and find submissions where, oh, I'm actually not able to execute this because of a deficit in flexibility, then I would work on that more. But for the moment, at least, not a high priority. I do some stretching. I'll typically do it like at the beginning of an open mat or something. I might take 10 minutes and just do some light stretching. Sometimes if I have extra time after a workout, I'll do some loaded stretching. But again, because of my time limitation at the moment, spending 30 minutes doing stretching just, it's not very rewarding for me.
I'm in the exact same position. I have a surplus of flexibility. I can do the splits both ways. It's not really a huge amount I need to focus on with flexibility. What I will do is, like, if I'm like sitting somewhere, I might, like, you know, put my leg in a stretched position.
Yeah,
like,
I definitely
do
a lot of that.
Like just to kind of be like, right, let's, you know, hold this for a longer time. Or like, like we were saying, I was in Paris yesterday. Like, I'll be waiting for a bus or something, or a train or fucking whatever. I'll just sit in a deep squat position.
Pistol squat, like, yeah.
Well, I can do repeated reps of pistol squats. So yeah, I could do that. Like, just sit in a squat position, stretch out, you know. So stuff like that, like, I suppose you could call that like flexibility work. But when I do like some prep work before each training session, like I've said it before, I have like Viking's disease, so I'll stretch that out just because I don't want to fucking have a claw for a hand. Well, it would be kind of cool, but I don't think it'd be great for like grip and stuff.
No.
So I don't really do a huge amount of flexibility work, but there is some in there as a just general component of my training, and obviously going through the different movements and doing as full a range of motion as my joint structures will allow. Like, it's kind of flexibility work. Like, if you do, I don't know, a lying hamstring curl or a seated hamstring curl, and you get to that kind of end range position and it's under load and you're getting stronger there, that is flexibility work.
Yeah.
You know, like, your hamstrings are not going to be tight after doing that, and if they are, you're probably doing it wrong in the first place.